What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Rank and File Bitcoin podcast. I am your host, Chris Lamo here. Getting right into it. LiftPay, LIFPay, temporarily suspends operations and winds down wallet services. This is a custodial mobile Lightning wallet service provider that is asking all users to withdraw their funds within the next 60 days. This announcement was made on Tuesday, February 25th. So 60 days from that date would be Saturday, April 26, 2025. For those users or people that have funds in there, I highly recommend you take it out way prior to that date. They said that they'll be doing ongoing support and allowing people to withdraw from that wallet for the time being. It was very unfortunate because it seems that we're bifurcating the world. There's basically going to be the KYC compliant, complicit custodial wallets, and then there is the non-KYC, self-sufficient Lightning wallets. So while there is, you could go down one route or the other, it seems to be there's a bifurcation in the Lightning network. And what I mean by that is there's going to be the people that you have to give your government ID, a passport, a driver's license, whatever it may be. And then there's people that set it up themselves. I know many people that are Lightning devs or Lightning advocates say that the non-custodial version is very easy and, it's not that big of a deal. I will say, as someone that's slightly more technical, I do find it's hard to manage sometimes. It's frustrating when your channel's closed for when you don't know why. Whereas I don't really want to go down the route either of KYCing myself and being at the whims of all of this. Like, I'm happy to pay taxes or, pay taxes and not be break laws and stuff like that. But at the same time, I don't want this creeping surveillance or the derogation of my rights. But at the same time, the non-KYC or non-custodial, I think, needs to be easier and to use and to do. So that's just kind of my two cents. It's a bummer to see this company LiftPay, suspend and shut down ultimately their operations. Moving on, a great Bitcoin company that I like, Nunchuk Wallet. So Nunchuk launches new and improved group wallet with chat. So as many people know, Nunchuk Wallet has been around for at least 5 or 6 years, if I remember. They got really famous in 2022 in February, when basically the Canadian government was trying to restrict funds. Obviously, people were using GoFundMe. There was Give, Send, Go, which is more of a Christian affiliation. There was PayPal, Venmo, and all these. Ultimately, all of these are regulated by the banking sector. And, a lot of those funds that were given to the Canadian truckers when they were protesting the vaccine mandates going over from the United States back into Canada, many of these truckers were protesting. And even the irony of it all is the majority of the Canadian truckers were actually vaccinated, but they were standing up in solidarity and fighting against authoritarian governments. This is obviously Trudeau, Christina Freeland. She's trying to run for his succession as he's stepping down. But basically what they were doing is Nunchuk was helping aid and abet people by using Bitcoin in order to go around, basically like the equivalent of cash, in order to go around these sanctions and actually aid the truckers in their finances. Obviously, it got very hairy. Canadian government was closing down the truckers' bank accounts, dropping their insurance. They were doing all these different things. So obviously, Bitcoin is a way to transact without being stopped. It is a way to fight against authoritarian governments. Some would even call Canadian Prime Minister at the time dictator. The only ever time that the Emergencies Act was used in Canada was actually by Trudeau's dad. And that was under very different circumstances. Trudeau was using against his own people, claiming that they were terrorists and they were horrible and that they were racist and all these slur of words where none of them turned out to be true. And I know many people are still fighting those ongoing allegations. But the cool thing about this, Nunchuk had a letter that actually Ted Cruz, senator from Texas, actually read out. And basically it was a letter stating to the Canadian government that, we're not going to comply with these demands. Not that we don't want to, even though we don't want to, but because we can't, because our wallet is a non-custodial wallet, meaning that the user has control of the funds. And even if they wanted to give up and dox his privacy, they don't have the ability to do so. And basically it was kind of throwing it in the face of the Canadian government and the financial institutions up there, basically saying, and then at the last line was great. It was like, but we will be here willing to help you even when you need Bitcoin in the future. So it was a great letter by Nunchuk. So they're a very based company. I think they do great work. But the cool thing about this wallet is it relies on PBKDF2 to transform the wallet's output descriptors into robust systematic encryption. So basically, the long of and short of it is basically they're using a way that Bitcoin wallets work with output descriptors, and basically they're converting it into an encrypted messaging. So it's very, very cool. If there was a 2 of 3, meaning that you need 2 of your private keys in order to move the Bitcoin, 2 of the 3. So if it was me, producer Jacob, and Dom, if Dom and I wanted to move this Bitcoin in the fund that we have, and me and Dom used it, we would use 2 of those 3 keys in order to move the Bitcoin. But the issues that's always happened with custodial collaborative custody is that a lot of times it's the communication aspect. So if you don't have encrypted communications, either it can get blocked, it can get intercepted, it can be hard to use. Notoriously, actually, Nunchuk was having issues back in 2025. Where it was hard to collaborate. There was issues where communications were falling or failing. That like he'd say, "Hey, I'm trying to sign this message. I need someone else to sign this message in order to move the Bitcoin," and that message was not getting disseminated to the other users. So they've done a lot of different things, and it's very cool that it's a way to get this non-custodial wallet so that you hold and that you can collaborate in a group setting very easily, almost like using encrypted messaging like Signal or any messaging app like that where it has encryption with it. So very, very cool. It's exciting to see. The IMF, so the International Monetary Fund, they award $1.4 billion loan to El Salvador, Bitcoin country, with further Bitcoin restrictions. So many Bitcoiners, obviously El Salvador was the first country to put Bitcoin on their balance sheet. President Bukele was very pro-Bitcoin, trying to welcome in entrepreneurs and even just Bitcoiners alike to visit the country. But it comes with a caveat. When you do a deal with the devil, there is restrictions and caveats with it. So while they are granting 113 million in disbursements immediately, the IMF says the deal will attract more multilateral support, totaling 3.5 billion in financing over the next 40 months, so almost the next 4 years. Last month, El Salvador's Legislative Assembly amended the Bitcoin law, removing Bitcoin's legal status or legal currency while retaining the legal status as legal currency while retaining the words legal tender. So I think this was a way to basically stop it from other countries saying, hey, we're interacting with another country's legal currency, which would mean that the taxes on it would be dropped. That's just me speculating, not a lawyer by any means. And then they go on to say the potential risks of the Bitcoin project are being addressed in line with fund policies and with the fund's advice to the authorities. Prior actions include legal reforms that have made acceptance of Bitcoin by the private sector voluntary and ensured that the tax payments are made only in US dollars. So they're trapping El Salvadorians in US dollars only, or at least they have to sell their Bitcoin to get US dollars to pay back, which is really a bummer to say the least. Despite these changes, the El Salvador administration seems committed to Bitcoin, although there was saying that, however, the IMF now claims that further program commitments, so payments they will make to El Salvador, will limit government engagement in Bitcoin-related economic activities, including the purchase of Bitcoin. Obviously, going back at least 2 or 3 years now, President Bukele said that they were going to buy a Bitcoin a day, and they were going to keep doing that for years on end. I'm actually going to go to they have a tracker. So as you can see over time, they were buying, single Bitcoins over time. And actually, I can't increase the scale of this, but they were buying a single Bitcoin. There was a jump. They bought 11 Bitcoins here, but still buying a single Bitcoin a day. And then all of a sudden they went a span of multiple days without buying a Bitcoin. Then there was a leap and they bought 7 Bitcoin. Now it seems they're back on track to buying a single Bitcoin a day. But there's definitely many people are wary about what is going on in El Salvador. So very concerning, I guess. You hate to see people dealing with the IMF. I know Bukele seems like he's using it to send a middle finger to them. It seems like it's a power imbalance. They're trying to see, is Bukele and the country going to win, or is the IMF going to put their fist down and see if they're going to win? So that's something that we'll keeping an eye on and seeing what happens next. So moving on to our next story, the European states continue their race for encryption backdoors. So as I was saying in a bunch of our previous episodes, European policymakers continue to push for backdoor encryption. So this is not just a thing for Bitcoin. This is a thing for people's privacy and people's freedoms and rights. Privacy is not secrecy. Privacy is the right to selectively reveal oneself to the world. So this is horrible. I think this is really bad. This is what authoritarian governments do. They want to take away your guns. They want to take away your privacy to transact and communicate. And then ultimately, the culmination of this is normally they jail or kill dissenters. Hate to steal from 1984, by George Orwell, but this is very very dystopian. It seems like it's going down this path. Europeans don't have as many gun rights as the United States. I could just leave it at that. then obviously they're trying to break encryption. So this would be breaking encryption or putting backdoor into encryption for people to communicate so they can surveil your communications. And then obviously they want to hamper down and stop transacting a Bitcoin with restrictive taxes, or even I know that there's various policies that even though dealing in cash, there's limits, I think, of about 10,000 or 10,000 euros in order that you have to report. With Bitcoin or digital assets, it's much lower. I think it's $1,000 per transaction. Don't quote me on that. Like I said, not a lawyer, not a CFA, and not based in Europe. But this is, very concerning, and it's something that we want to see reversed. I know. So the CEO of Tuta Mail, weakening encryption for law enforcement inevitably creates vulnerabilities that can and will be exploited by cyber criminals and hostile foreign actors. This law would not only just target criminals, it would destroy security for everyone. And like I said, that was Mathis Pifau, CEO of Tuta Mail. Meredith Whitaker, she is the CEO of Signal, the famous and popular messaging app, encrypted messaging app. I use it. I love it. Meredith is awesome. Her quote is, if you create a vulnerability based on Swedish wishes, it would create a way to undermine our entire network. Therefore, we will never introduce these backdoors. So Meredith, the Signal CEO, taking a hardline stance, saying that she and the Signal Corporation will not put a backdoor into it. If push comes to shove, what that ultimately means is that if a court injunction comes through, Apple and ultimately Google with their Google Play Store might need to remove Signal app from the app stores in Europe, which would be devastating. It would be horrible for journalists, so journalistic integrity, journalistic privacy. It would be great for authoritarian dictators. Not only could they see the backdoor into this, but as it was also said in there by the CEO of Tuta Mail, that basically criminals and foreign actors can get access to backdooring phones and encryption messages. So this is horrible. Everyone should be fighting against this. Corporations, people, citizens, journalists, everyone. I mean, the only people this really benefits is the benevolent dictators or people that say they're democratic leaders but want to act as benevolent dictators. So I hope that this gets reversed, and I hope this gets hung up in the courts. We'll have to wait and see with that as well. Moving on, back to the U.S., back to the home soil there. The U.S. House Committee for advanced a joint resolution to eliminate the IRS's broker rule for decentralized front-end services. Basically, long story short, this is a way to nullify the IRS's midnight rulemaking requiring decentralized trading platforms offering front-end services to track and report customer information. So obviously there's been this really big push and pull for decentralized or dApps, decentralized apps, or decentralized coordinators or decentralized exchanges that basically the devs, as we saw with Tornado Cash, or as we saw with even the Samurai Wallet developers and even Bitcoin Fog, that a lot of these decentralized platforms that they're going after the developers for writing free and open source code. Obviously, I've talked about this ad nauseum. In the past, the 90s, the encryption wars, there was talks that the U.S. government was trying to sue free and open source developers, saying that they were using encryption that could aid Iran or North Korea or Russia, and using encryption in communications is actually a munition. They were claiming that it was actually like ammo, that because if they were transitioning nuclear codes, that's a munition. But ultimately, cooler heads prevailed. The Supreme Court and higher courts ruled in favor, at least in 3 different cases, where encryption is protected under the First Amendment. Free and open source code is protected under the First Amendment under speech. So this is all these things are great. And, basically they're trying to remove the IRS from going after devs and stuff like this. This is not yet confirmed a law yet, but it's a step in the right direction. The proposal needs majority approval in both the House and Senate, plus the president's signature to become final. Obviously, President Trump and his administration seems to be pro cryptocurrencies. I say that in the broader sense, Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies, and the crypto industry at large. It remains to be seen whether he'd sign something like this. I know in the years past, Trump was very kind of not against privacy, but not a proponent of it. So we'll see if it gets through first the House and Senate, and then ultimately if Trump signs it into law or vetoes it. We'll see. Last and final story. So I know we were talking about this last week, and basically it was we were talking about the Bitcoin Strategic Reserve race. So Utah was running the race, and I can actually share my screen on this. Share my screen real quick. Nope, not that one. There we go. Share the screen. So as we can see, Utah is in the lead with Arizona, Oklahoma, and Texas and Florida in the flanks. But that's not who we're talking about, or Oklahoma as well in the flanks. So Oklahoma's Strategic Bitcoin Reserve Act, HB 1203, moves to the House floor. HB 1203 would enable Oklahoma State Treasury to invest in public funds in the digital assets with a market cap over 500 billion in the past year. I think that only, I don't want to misspeak, but I think Bitcoin definitely meets that. I'm not sure if any of the other cryptocurrencies meet that at the time. I don't even want to say them because I don't want to give them validity, but I think Bitcoin would be the only one that meets over a $500 billion market cap in the past year. So basically, it's a Bitcoin law. Montana, North Dakota, Pennsylvania, South Dakota, and Wyoming have all rejected recently similar proposals, yet there are still 25 Bitcoin-related bills under consideration across 18 different states. So far, Utah's HB 0230 is the most likely the first to be passed. So, yeah, that's pretty much all that I got today. So those quick 6 stories. I hope you enjoyed it. We're excited to have Dom come back next week. So Dom and I will be ripping it again next week. But if I don't talk to you guys, have a great day. Have a great evening. Stay humble, stack sats. And please do us a favor, like, comment, and subscribe. It would go a long way to helping out this channel grow. So we really appreciate it. Have a good one. I'll talk to you guys later. Peace out.